Stu Gatz here. Whether you're into podcasts about ghastly crimes or hip-hop rhymes, there's always something new to discover on Spotify. With a mix of originals and many of the world's most popular shows, listening to podcasts on Spotify is easy. Just open the app, tap Browse, and dive into their growing library. Subscribe to your favorites, including our entire archive, so you'll never miss a show. You can also download podcasts for those moments when you're up in the air or going underground. Podcasts on Spotify are streaming right now. Go check them out today.
Holiday cash. Here's where to get it. MyBookie.ag is the place to score serious cash on your sports predictions. There are a lot of football, basketball, and hockey games. You can score big every day. Man up, play like the pros. The money line, side, or total. MyBookie.ag is your hookup for all your betting with all the lines and super fast payouts. Join now and MyBookie.ag will match your deposit with up to a 50% bonus. Use promo code CHAMPION to activate the order. Don't leave the money on the table. MyBookie.ag, promo code CHAMPION, and your first deposit is matched to up to 50%. Play where the pros play because they get paid. MyBookie.ag.
Happy Turkey Day, kiddos. You're listening to the Dan Batard Show with Stu Gatz on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. My name is Clinton Yates, filling in here on a holiday, and ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests join us via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, and you can tweet me on the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed, at ESPN Radio, at Clinton Yates. Give me a phone call, too. 1-888-ESPN, 1-888-729-3776. You know the rules. If you choose to engage, which I am a fan of, if you come incorrect in my mentions, I will embarrass you and not apologize. You might want to take extra consideration to the rules today because you are probably actively standing in front of your friends and your family right now. So come correct. Right now, though, it's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. All right, let's talk about what we're going to do with the show today. It is Thanksgiving Day. It is the last Thursday of November. I got a television in front of me right now. I'm live coming at you, by the way, from the Undefeated Studios. For those of you who don't know who I am, I write for the Undefeated. I host a show on weekends on ESPN Radio called The Morning Roast with Mina Kimes and Dominique Foxworth. I also happen to appear on Around the Horn on ESPN. So you might have seen me and not realized that, and you might have even heard me before and not realized that. But today is a special day. We got a decent amount of things planned. We're going to do for that. We're going to take your phone calls. I want to get your Thanksgiving takes throughout the course of the day. You know what I'm saying? Have you started drinking yet? I know some people like to get after it early. Have you started really eating yet? Some people, the breakfast portion of Thanksgiving, always a critical element. You got to pace yourself. You can't get out all ahead of it and decide that you're going to try to bang out a big breakfast and then work it off with a football game. Next thing you know, you're taking a nap and you're woken up and all the food's gone. There's a lot of different ways to approach Thanksgiving. Hit me up with a check-in. Let me know where you're at status-wise in terms of how your day is going. In the meantime, I'm going to tell you a quick story. So every year, I got some cousins that live, I'd say about an hour and a half away from the District of Columbia, where I'm from. And their kids, at this time, this is probably about 5 years ago, were in middle school. Now, their kids are pretty athletic. My cousin's husband used to be a trainer for an NHL team. So the kids play hockey, and she played college basketball. So they're all a very athletic family. So in their backyard, they had a trampoline. And the trampoline had a hoop. Now, trampolines, as we all know, are death traps. I don't know why anybody has them ever, because kids can maim themselves at any given moment. And a lot of unfortunate accidents have happened on trampolines. I'm not trying to be flip about that. But this one particular year, let's just say I might have gotten after it a little before heading down. I was not driving. Relax. And by the time I got there, all the kids were playing on the hoop inside the trampoline. So, I got in there. My kid brother was there. He was, 10 or 11 at the time. He's all pumped up. He's like, oh, yo, Clinton dunk, do something, I'm like, all right. So I get inside this bad boy. Mind you, I had just been sort of sitting in there, watching them play, just talking to them, catching up. Piece of advice. If you're a grown man, never, ever dunk on a trampoline rim. Why? Because if you are of any remote weight, never mind athletic ability, I'm not going to act like my dunks are so vicious that this is why this happened. I just happen to be larger than everybody in the edifice. I basically ripped the whole thing down and destroyed the trampoline. And it was like nearly an extremely ugly scene because borderline half of it collapsed. I was trying to be cool. I don't even remember what the dunk was, but it was borderline traumatic for everybody involved. All the kids ran away, obviously, because their big cousin had broken the thing, and they were all scared they were going to get in trouble. My cousin comes out. She looks at me. She's like, "What did you do? What is wrong with you? Why are you going to break my kid's thing? You know that I spent like all night one Christmas Eve 2 years ago building that thing in the backyard while they were sleeping, right?" At this point, I'm legitimately upset. I'm like, dang. I literally came in here 5 minutes later, destroyed the whole entertainment complex that they had for these children this entire day, which makes me the jerk. Nobody was hurt. The only thing she made me do was help her tear the whole thing down because basically at that point it had to go. It was very embarrassing, but I learned a very good lesson, which is that if you're grown, don't be messing around on kids' stuff. Why is this applicable? Obviously because that happened on Thanksgiving, and today is Thanksgiving. So give me your stories. We'll take them all. I need to know about some of your horror stories. 1-888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. Tell me about how your day's going. We're going to talk a little later in the program to John Keim, ESPN NFL Nation Skins reporter, by the by, at FedEx Field, where they're playing the New York Football Giants tonight. They're opening up the parking lots at, I believe, what is 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Why is that of significance? Because that game doesn't start until 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Meaning, folks is going to be getting after it pretty much all afternoon. Over, under on exploding turkey fryers. I'm setting it 3. It's a push at this point. I'll see how the weather breaks here in D.C. to let me know whether or not that's going to get better or worse. A couple of bad teams facing off against each other, which means a lot of angry fans. Not going to be a good scene in that parking lot. I believe there's a parade as well at some point, so we'll see how that goes. We're also going to talk to Herm Edwards, the coach, later in the program. That should be fun. I wonder what Herm's Turkey Day situation is. I bet you Herm's probably got a great spread going. Also going to talk to Stefano Fasaro, ESPN Dallas reporter. Obviously, the Cowboys are playing the Chargers later today. And, of course, there's the Lions-Vikings game. I'm not really sure which one of these games I even really like the best. Obviously, I'm going to watch the Skins because I'm a fan of that team, and the game's happening down the street. But Chargers-Cowboys, Lions-Vikes is a good game. We'll see how that goes. It should be fun. But, yeah, it's Turkey Day. We'll take your phone calls, 888-ESPN, 888-729-3776. Let's get a quick one in, actually, before we get out of here. Morris in Virginia, how you doing?
All right, here's what happened. I'm 51 now, and I was 42, played my last Turkey Bowl ever. And the reason is I was playing safety, pretty athletic. I'm from a very athletic family. As a matter of fact, I had a nephew that played in the NFL. His name was Andre Wilfolk.
Okay.
But anyway, I was playing safety, and I read a play pretty well. My team didn't. They did a misdirection. They ran this guy out of backfield. They had to be all of like 270 coming my direction. So I tried to wait till last minute to go low and take his legs out. I took too long and hit him more midsection. He lifted his knees and literally sent me airborne backwards. The ground was cold and hard. My head hit the ground first. I was unconscious because the next thing I remember is hearing people saying, "He's coming too." I was knocked flat out unconscious. Don't play Turkey Bowl in your 40s. Just forget it, people.
Thanks for the phone call. 1-888-ESPN, 888-729-3776. Let's get another quick one in here. Derek in Washington. This is another Turkey Bowl disaster game. What's up, Derek?
Okay, so here's the deal. I come home from college, D1 football player.
All
I
right.
think I'm the big man. Got all my nieces and nephews there playing basketball, and they're taunting me. I'm playing a game, and I'm letting them win because I'm trying to be the good guy.
Right.
Well, then they start talking trash. So my nephew, who's like 12, goes up for a shot. I block it so hard it comes down, breaks his nose. He gets 9 stitches. All my sisters come out and say, seriously, what the heck is wrong with you? That's it.
Thanks for the phone call. I'm guessing they didn't use the word heck there. That was a good story. But yes, that's what we'll do today. It's a holiday program. I want to hear your stories throughout the course of the day. We're obviously going to talk sports. Going to hit the NBA. Watched both of those games last night. Also going to hit the NFL as we discussed. Going to talk to a few of our friends. And we're going to talk about food as well. Because that's what we do. Because it's Turkey Day. And I'm looking at Wyclef Jean singing right now with a bunch of people in hockey outfits. That's a little weird. Now, it's time for your Sports Center update. The Thunder topped the Warriors 108-91 as Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook scuffled. It got a little spicy on the bird, as they like to say. The Thunder Big Three outscored the Warriors Big Four by 18 points, including 34 from Westbrook. Staying in the NBA, the Celtics' 16-game winning streak was snapped by the Heat. It was the team's longest win streak since a franchise record 19 straight in the 08-09 season. And in Cleveland, LeBron's 23 points in the fourth quarter helped lift the Cavaliers past the Nets. LeBron had to leave the game in the third quarter to receive stitches on a facial laceration after collision with Tyler Zeller. Is that a mask situation? That's a good question out there for the Cavs. And finally, in the NFL, Lions coach Jim Caldwell told the NFL Network that defensive end Dwight Freeney won't play versus the Vikings. The Lions claimed the former All-Pro defensive end Wednesday. The 37-year-old Freeney became available after the Seattle Seahawks waived him Tuesday following a 4-game stint with the club in which he had 3 sacks and 3 tackles. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in to SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day. That's Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. I'm Clinton Yates. You're listening to the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Hi, everyone. Stu Gatz here. Support for the Dan Le Batard Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you are confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, and your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you the same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you are getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Stugotz. That's rocketmortgage.com/Stugotz, STUGOTZ. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states. NMLS consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Durant, the crossover, stolen by Westbrook, but he couldn't hold on. Westbrook saying no. Well, the official's going to have to step in sooner or later as these former star teammates jawing at each other. Forehead to forehead. Like, and I guarantee you that has happened time and time again when they were teammates practicing against one another. It's not the first rodeo for those two.
The Dan Le Batard Show with Stu Gatz on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests join us via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. You can tweet us on the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed at ESPN Radio and at Clinton Yates. That's me filling in here on a holiday, live from the District of Columbia. What you heard right there, Mike Breen and Mark Jackson from ESPN TV, describing the little Donnybrook, if you will. It wasn't quite a Donnybrook. It wasn't even close to all of that. They touched foreheads last night during the Thunder Warriors game. It was an interesting little ball game. It wasn't exactly it wasn't the most competitive game in the context of the score necessarily. Thunder won 108-91. But it was about as exciting as it was going to get for a game that I never really thought that the Thunder were going to lose. That situation that you just saw unfold between Westbrook, that you heard unfold between Westbrook and Durant, I think is pretty fair to say was honest. I saw people tweeting like, oh, it looks like they're just putting it on for show. I don't know about that. Let's hear what Royce Young, and ESPN NBA Thunder reporter, had to say about this on Izzy and Spain.
The most Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook talk to each other is the little sequences of trash talk when they play against each other, because that's it. I mean, these two guys, there is no relationship between them anymore. And obviously that's kind of a sad thing. I mean, these guys spent a lot of time together, got very, very close, a lot of respect and admiration for the other. But, you can see it on the floor tonight, the way just Russell Westbrook reacts to any time he's around Durant. I mean, the guy just wants to annihilate him. And, I mean, Russell certainly holds a grudge.
Now, here's the question. In a real deal, what I like to call the hands community, who do you think actually wins that battle? Like, if it came down to it, I know it's easy to say Russ, simply because he's a little more feisty. You're going to presume he's probably got a little heavier of a hand, if you will. But Durant's got a reasonable amount of reach on him. Something that you could see him expressing during that little situation. He was looking down upon him literally and physically, which Russell clearly did not appreciate, because the look on his face, if you see the highlight, was that, don't make me pop off, son. You're about to make me mad. He had that, you're about to make me mad, and if you make me mad, I can't be held responsible for what I'm going to do. He was acknowledging him. He had his ear to his mouth, but he wouldn't look him in the eye, because he knew if he looked him in the face, it was going to send him over the edge and make him angry. Understandably, too, by the way. I'd still be ticked off if I was Russell Westbrook as well. Probably not fairly, but it would make sense. Let's hear what the NBA MVP had to say about last night.
Play the same way every night. If it's against Kevin, if it's against who we play Friday. Detroit, Reggie Jackson, Dennis Smith on Saturday. It don't matter who it is. On the court, I don't got no friends. Only friend I have is the basketball. That's it. And obviously my teammates. But I go out to compete. I go out and play at a high level, like I've been saying since day one, and that's what I do.
Kevin Durant, Kevin Love, Kevin from that show on CBS, don't matter. Thunder's winning at home. That's basically what Westbrook is saying in that meme style. He doesn't care who's out there, but I don't believe that. You don't go face-to-face with a guy for no reason if you don't care who it is, but his point is correct. Westbrook brings that noise every single night. He just turned it up a notch last night for Durant and the Thunder. And in the Heat, the Warriors, and it showed. I mean, they outplayed them. It wasn't just a bad night for Golden State. The Thunder took it personally, and it showed up in the box score. That was a fun game last night, a very fun game. Let's hear what Kevin Durant had to say on his reception back in Oklahoma City.
It was a little better. I mean, it's not like the first time, so I'm sure everybody in the arena, they say what they had to say.
What's that chippiness like with you and Russ?
Man, that's just ball. It's just ball. He's competitive. I'm competitive. We like to go at it, both of us, and that's just a part of the game. So I respect it. I got nothing but love for it. So I'm expecting it again when we play him again, but it's for all fun and games to me.
I thought it was actually a very healthy, competitive environment. It didn't feel over-the-top haterade style the way it did the first time he came back. Matter of fact, there were a couple of dudes in the crowd with some big old Kevin Durant, not bobbleheads, fathead-looking things. And another guy had a sign that said, "Sorry, not sorry." Which is about where it should be. Thunder fans are over it, but they ain't forgotten it. That was the vibe I got. Now, we're not going to get into the whole concept of why it's not really about loyalty, but that's a different discussion. It was a very competitive NBA game last night, and it was the biggest win of the season, as far as I'm concerned, for the Thunder. Let's hear Durant, though. Things did get a little chippy in the postgame with the press.
There were definitely some pictures of, Westbrook and Draymond, kind of a little clapping contest. You guys nose to nose. Seemed a little tense out there.
Did you watch the game, or you just tried to watch for the scuffles and the...
Oh, no, I was watching the game. I was watching. There's more than one story here.
Oh, okay. The story is about the game. We lost. They kicked our ass. They played a great game. We should give them credit for how they play, and we should be better. It's not about who in each other's faces, or that stuff is not real. So please don't believe it. All the fans, they lying to y'all. It's about basketball, and they played a great game, and we didn't.
I'm supposed to believe that? Did you watch the game? First of all, that question is disrespectful to the reporter. Katie, come on, man. You're better than that. Why are you trying to act like y'all weren't literally touching foreheads at the free throw line extended? I mean, it'd be one thing if that didn't happen, but it did. So trying to act as if all of a sudden you too good to have a discussion about the fact that you and Westbrook don't get along anymore. Come on, fam. KD, we love you, but that don't make no sense. Y'all got lightweight worked by your former team the night before Thanksgiving. It happens. I understand that. You're a little frustrated. But I love the reply she had right there. There's multiple storylines in a game. Hashtag, well, actually, Playboy. We can think about more than one thing at once. Which is exactly right. Westbrook didn't exactly get revenge on Kevin Durant last night. But I'll say this. That was the win the Thunder needed to realize that they're for real this year and not just another 8 seed hanging around looking to lose to somebody. And at this point, I think Westbrook's got a little bit of the psychological advantage over Kevin Durant. I'm Clayton Yates, filling in for Dan Batard and Stu on a Thanksgiving. Coming up, going to talk a little bit more NBA because there was another game after that on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Holiday cash. Here's where to get it. MyBookie.ag is the place to score serious cash on your sports predictions. There are a lot of football, basketball, and hockey games. You can score big every day. Man up. Play like the pros. The money line, side, or total. MyBookie.ag is your hookup for all your betting with all the lines and super fast payouts. Join now and MyBookie.ag will match your deposit with up to a 50% bonus. Use promo code CHAMPION to activate the order. Don't leave the money on the table. MyBookie.ag, promo code CHAMPION, and your first deposit is matched up to 50%. Play where the pros play because they get paid. MyBookie.ag.
Another thing happened last night in the NBA, which was that Lonzo Ball, and his Lakers played against the Sacramento Kings. That was an interesting game. The Kings looked real good. Lakers looked okay. Lonzo's cut all his hair off, by the way, which is a much bigger deal in my life right now than anything going on with the actual team. Lakers looked all right. Lonzo probably had the dunk of the night, I would say. Caught a nice little lob. Banged that joint with one hand. But let's be honest with ourselves here. The story right now is not Lonzo and the Lakers in that family. It's LaVar Ball. LaVar Ball has been in a tete-a-tete, if you will, with the President of the United States of America. And the tweets have been flowing. And LaVar did an interview with CNN. And then something weird happened, which was that the president kept tweeting at him, doubling down on what he said, calling him an ungrateful fool. Here's the problem with that. Two things. Number one, ungrateful is basically code word for uppity, which is code for stay in your place. Y'all know how I feel about stay in your place arguments. They're absurd, they're racist in nature, and by definition are out of line. This is the United States of America where people are allowed to say what they choose without facing fear of retribution from their government. It's not the same thing as getting fired from your job for being a jerk. Let's be clear about that. But after all that, my colleague, Bill Plaschke, who I know and I like, wrote this column. Headline, "The Big Blowhard. LaVar Ball has made a living off the backs of his children." Bill, if you're listening, understand this. This is not a shot at you or anything personal, but this is a fundamentally flawed, and I would go so far as to say inappropriate argument in this situation, and I'll explain why. When it comes to how black folks raise families in this nation, we are often vilified as not being present enough, not being involved enough, and oftentimes not being capable enough to raise and build families the way that, according to Hoyle, we should. So when you see a guy like LaVar Ball, who due to his own specific personality offends a lot of people's sensibilities, there's a tendency to tie in the notion that whatever his children may seem to achieve, understand, or want is somehow separate if they do not embody the exact same personality. That does not make sense. Because LaVar Ball is their dad. He is not doing anything off of the backs of those players, as he is the one who taught them and provided them with everything they have to achieve what they have gotten so far. Now, I could get all into the concept of why we understand what the black body is worth in America and why people seem to think that there's something wrong with black folks taking agency in themselves and not buying into the system that is otherwise exploitative, also known as the American way. Go read a book. But I don't have to do that, because you can just tell how offended people get when a black dad basically says, I don't need y'all's nonsense. I'll do it how I want. Because that is not how we've done things in this country forever. It's just not. Gordon Gronkowski wanted to put 3 kids in the NFL. Just because he wasn't a loud, screaming jerk, as some might put it, would you say that he wanted to build? Or he was, living off the backs of his children? Would you say that? No, you probably wouldn't. So this notion that LaVar Ball is somehow ungrateful because the president tweeted that he allegedly got his son out of jail is insane for 2 reasons. Number one, fealty is not a requirement of a functioning democracy. And number two, Trump doesn't necessarily know what he's talking about when it comes to the legal system in China. Okay? Let me read from a little publication that some of you might know as the New York Times. Shoplifting is considered a relatively minor crime in China, and foreigners convicted of minor crimes are often deported rather than given prison sentences. Quote, it's nonsense, end quote. Fu Hualing, I hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly, a law professor at the University of Hong Kong, said of Mr. Trump's assertion that his intervention was solely responsible for the athlete's release. Quote, I would be surprised if they were even prosecuted, end quote. Oh, I'm sorry. Those on the ground who actually understand the internal working machinations of what goes on in Chinese culture and law don't seem to believe this was a big deal. So when LaVar Ball says it's not a big deal, hey, guess what? He's actually correct on that front from a legal standpoint. Now, it might be a big deal to you because you don't seem to want to understand why a brother would charge $500 for some shoes and $200 for some slides, because that just doesn't operate in your particular brain framework. Meanwhile, I don't see you complaining about Gucci Aces being $500 because you probably didn't even know that, because they're luxury goods for luxury bank accounts. The point is here is that LaVar was right about all this. And to stand up there and say that he is taking something off of the backs of his kids when he literally, physically, emotionally, and otherwise built and supported them, you're taking away the ability and the agency of a black family to support itself, for itself, within itself, for themselves. And that's what's hard for a lot of people to understand. You can't have it both ways. You can't act like when somebody's not around, because by the judicial system be taking brothers off the street left and right, that all of a sudden they ain't enough fathers in the household. And then turn around and say, when a man builds an empire and tries his best to make sure his kids are in the best position to succeed at what they're good at, that all of a sudden he's working off the backs of them. That isn't fair by definition. But then again, never was for black folks in America. And that's the whole point, kiddos. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Now you can test drive Snapshot to see how much you could save before switching to Progressive. Visit progressive.com/snapshot. When we come back, we're going to talk about food, y'all. It's still Turkey Day. I'm Clinton Yates. It's the Dan Batard Show with Stu Gatz on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Now, I could take calls on LaVar Ball, but I'm not going to do that. You know why? Because I'm right. What we're going to do now is we're going to talk about food. Today's Turkey Day, y'all. Yesterday, food Twitter was moving big time. I got guys on my feed talking about how macaroni and cheese is trash. The eventual debate about cranberry sauce came up. Matter of fact, right now, let's put that on the poll. Can versus homemade. Which do you prefer? I have pretty hot takes about this. I am a can all the way, from not just an ease of making and resource management in the kitchen standpoint, but also simply a taste standpoint. Homemade cranberry sauce, sorry kiddos, nasty. It's like a vat of jelly. I don't need that to just be eaten on my own. I look like putting whole cranberries in my mouth. It's 2017. The cans are perfect. Put that bad boy in the fridge overnight. Some of you might even stick it in the freezer for a little bit. I like it ice cold. That's really the only way to serve it as far as I'm concerned. If I come to your house and y'all ain't got no canned cranberry sauce and you do have regular, or rather homemade, we're going to have a problem. My homie Christoph, avid listener of this program, even when I'm not hosting, made his last night, sent me 900 texts complete with pictures and video of his process. He's got a thing in his kitchen that he only pulls out once a year to make this stuff. I'll give him his credit on that from a simple tradition standpoint. That's a different discussion. The food itself is a whole other matter. So if you ask me, I'm team canned. Hashtag all the way. But there was this other discussion about mac and cheese that I didn't understand at all, which is this notion that mac and cheese is somehow garbage. First of all, mac and cheese is like the Volvo of Thanksgiving food. And I'm not calling it a side, because mac and cheese, shout out to Mina Kimes, is not a Thanksgiving side. Mac and cheese is a thing that people eat on Thanksgiving in addition to other things. In the taxonomy of seasonal foods, mac and cheese is just mac and cheese. It is a massive industry on its own that you don't just throw into a side category because it happens to be Thanksgiving. Be smarter than that, number one. Number two, like I said, it's the Volvo of Thanksgiving foods. It's reliable. Some Volvos are fly as a mug. A lot of people just probably, just like them because they're safe, though. Now, that being said, shout out to my homegirl, April Rain, who once made a mac and cheese that changed my whole life. That's a different discussion, though. But for the most part, if you're getting that bent out about mac and cheese bent out of shape on either side of the matter, you probably have a trash palate. That's all I'm saying. Mac and cheese should not be making or breaking any meal by any stretch of the imagination if you're older than 12 years old. Just understand that. But there's another thing we got to talk about. That's the most important thing, period. Period, and full stop when it comes to Thanksgiving foods. And that's something that I realize that not everybody is familiar with. Now, I don't know how y'all operate at your houses, but where I'm from, the cooking happens, and it's an open-door cooking policy for the most part. People will go in and out of the kitchen for social purposes or as needed as summoned by your elders or whoever's cooking to get something they may need or give them something they ain't got in the kitchen so they don't have to leave. You don't just close off the kitchen and then have everybody emerge with the food. It is a living, breathing process. And during the course of the day, people get really, really hungry. We discussed breakfast at Thanksgiving throughout the day. By the way, Christoph is texting me right now, talking about homemade cranberry sauce is not a vat of jelly. It's more like a fine relish. Okay. Tomato. Anyway, people get hungry throughout the course of the day. So you got to have some ways to make sure that people aren't coming in messing up the actual meal. And how do you do that? Well, where I'm from, you have what's known as a walking around ham. What is a walking around ham, you may ask? It's a ham for eating while you're walking around waiting for the food to be done. The walking around ham is the most vital part of any Thanksgiving Day experience. Period. You got to have it. It keeps people off your back in the kitchen. It makes things more fun, and you don't put that walking around ham near the other food, because then you're inviting, bees to the honey, or whatever. Bad analogy there. You put your walking around ham out in a side spot, so people can holler at it without messing with the actual operation that's about to come for everybody to bless the table with. Cranberry sauce belongs in a can. Mac and cheese should not make and break your meal. And if you don't have a walking around ham, well, then you just ain't doing Thanksgiving right. Those have been your Turkey Day rules from your boy, Clinton Yates. Feel free to hit me up on Twitter and let me know what your thoughts are on them as well. It's the Dan Batard Show with Stu Gatz on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Thank you for tuning in on a holiday, folks.